Look in the mirror and ask yourself, who are you really becoming? The person staring back at you is familiar, comfortable, predictable, but is that enough for 2026? Deep down, you know you were meant for more. You feel it in the tension, the restlessness, the dissatisfaction that nags at you every day, that voice inside your head that whispers you're capable of more, that urges you to rise, to break free, to transform. Listen to it, because it is the echo of your future self demanding action. Every second you waste in hesitation, in comfort, in complacency, you drift further from the person you are destined to be. And the truth is, the world will not wait for you to catch up. The clock ticks, time moves. 2026 is coming, whether you are ready or not. And the question is, when it arrives, will anyone recognize you, including yourself? This is not a speech about hope. This is not a speech about wishful thinking. This is about action, about power, about a relentless refusal to settle for the version of yourself that exists today. Transformation is brutal. It demands you strip away excuses, destroy old habits, and step into discomfort every single day. It forces you to look at the truth unflinchingly and say, I will not stay the same. I will not accept mediocrity. I will become unrecognizable. Because the person you see now, the one who settles, who hesitates, who dreams without execution, that person cannot exist in 2026. If you are serious about change, everything you've ever wanted, the respect, the influence, the freedom, the power, the legacy is on the other side of relentless action. And it begins with a single choice, the choice to commit fully to becoming a version of yourself so extraordinary that the world will stop, stare, and take notice. You will have to embrace discomfort, because comfort is the enemy of greatness. You will have to outwork, outthink, and outlast everyone who doubts you, including the part of yourself that wants to quit, that wants to sleep, that wants to settle. Every habit you change, every boundary you enforce, every relationship you realign, every standard you elevate compounds into a force so powerful, so relentless that by 2026, no one, including your past self, will recognize the person you become. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It is for the warriors, the relentless, the ones who stare at their reflection and see not who they are, but who they could be. It is for those who refuse to be defined by their history, their mistakes, their comfort zones, or anyone else's limitations. And if you are listening to this, if you feel that fire inside, that hunger that won't let you rest, then you already know this is your moment. Your transformation begins now. The next steps you take, the decisions you make, and the effort you put in today will echo into the unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026. Brace yourself. This is more than a speech. This is a call to arms, a challenge, an awakening. By the end of this message, you will no longer see yourself the same way. You will no longer tolerate weakness, hesitation, or excuses. You will understand with crystal clarity that to become unrecognizable, you must commit fully, act relentlessly, and dominate your own evolution. Are you ready to meet the person you were always meant to become? Burn the old version of yourself. Understand this, the person you were yesterday is not the person you are meant to become tomorrow. Every limitation you've accepted, every excuse you've whispered to yourself, every fear you've allowed to dictate your choices must be obliterated. You cannot carry the same mindset, the same habits, and the same weak version of yourself into 2026 and expect to become unrecognizable. Transformation does not come from tweaking the edges of who you are. It comes from completely dismantling the structure of your old self and refusing to rebuild it the same way. Too many people live in the illusion of change, thinking that just reading a book, attending a seminar, or posting inspirational quotes online somehow qualifies as transformation. That is not change. That is surface level distraction. True transformation begins with a ruthless audit of your life. You must sit down with yourself and confront every lie you believed about your limits, every compromise you've made in the name of comfort, every failure to act when opportunity presented itself. And when you confront these truths, you must not flinch. You must not rationalize. You must ignite the fire that burns those chains to ash. Burning the old version of yourself requires more than awareness. It requires action. Awareness without action is like staring at a map but refusing to walk the path. You can know where you are weak. You can see the patterns that keep you trapped. But unless you act, nothing will change. Every morning, you must ask yourself, what part of the old me am I going to destroy today? Maybe it's a habit of scrolling aimlessly through social media, stealing your hours and your energy. Maybe it's the fear that keeps you from speaking up, from pursuing the dream that terrifies and excites you at the same time. Maybe it's a relationship, a connection, a friendship, a routine that has kept you comfortable but stagnant. Whatever it is, you must confront it head on. Do not negotiate with it. Do not promise yourself that you'll get to it later. Burn it now and then walk away from it as if it never existed. Transformation is uncomfortable because it demands that you feel the pain of shedding identity. Your old self, even in its weaknesses, feels familiar. There is a certain perverse comfort in repeating the same patterns, even if those patterns are slowly killing your potential. You have to be willing to sit in discomfort, to stare at the reflection in the mirror and recognize that it no longer aligns with your vision. Every excuse you've used, I'm tired, I don't have the resources, I'll start tomorrow, must be discarded like ashes in the wind. You must become someone who refuses to make excuses because you understand that excuses are the glue that holds your old self together. The new version of you doesn't negotiate with limitations. It demolishes them to burn the old version of yourself. You must also confront your past, your mistakes, your regrets, the times you failed, the people you hurt, the opportunities you squandered. These are the ghosts of who you were, and they will follow you into the future unless you confront them. Acknowledge them, learn from them, and then burn the bridge behind them. Do not carry shame as a backpack into the next chapter of your life. Let it fuel you. Let it ignite a fire inside you so strong that the memory of your old failures becomes a reminder that you will never allow yourself to settle for mediocrity again. You are not defined by the past. You are defined by the relentless pursuit of who you are becoming. Burning the old self also means redefining your standards. The person you were yesterday has certain tolerances, certain thresholds for failure, mediocrity, and comfort. Those thresholds must be obliterated. You must demand more of yourself than ever before, not occasionally, not when convenient, but consistently every single day. Your work ethic, your discipline, your focus, and your vision must all operate on a level that your old self would have considered impossible. You must set new standards for your physical fitness, your mental toughness, your emotional resilience, and your intellectual growth. Anything short of that is a compromise. And compromise is the enemy of transformation. This process is not linear, and it is not easy. There will be moments when you look in the mirror and feel the tug of your old identity, whispering that it's too hard, that change is impossible, that you should return to what is familiar. You must resist this pull with every ounce of energy in your body. You must create rituals, habits, and routines that reinforce the destruction of your old self. Early mornings, intense focus sessions, strict discipline in your diet, mind, and body. These are not just actions. They are declarations that you are committed to becoming unrecognizable. Every choice you make must be a brick in the foundation of the new you. Every decision to resist the old temptations, to step into discomfort, to push past fear is another flame that burns away the old version of yourself. Burning the old self is also about identity. Who you were yesterday cannot define who you are tomorrow. You must redefine yourself on your own terms, not according to societal expectations, peer pressures, or outdated beliefs. You must create a vision of yourself that is so compelling, so powerful, so unrecognizable that even your closest friends will be shocked by your transformation. And in doing so, you will discover something extraordinary. The more of the old self you burn away, the more freedom you gain. Freedom from limitation, freedom from fear, freedom from mediocrity. You will move through 2026 as someone who refuses to be contained by the identity of yesterday, someone who has been forged by fire, shaped by discipline, and refined by relentless action. Every day is an opportunity to ignite this fire. Every failure, every setback, every insult, every doubt you encounter must be fuel for the destruction of the old self. Do not waste your pain or your anger or your frustration. Use it to fuel the relentless pursuit of transformation. Stand in front of the mirror each morning and declare to yourself that the old version is dead. The old habits are dead. The old excuses are dead. And then live your day as if the person who wakes up tomorrow is already unrecognizable to the world, and most importantly, to yourself. This is the essence of being unrecognizable in 2026. It is not a goal to be achieved with half-hearted effort. It is a lifestyle, a mindset, a declaration that you will not be constrained by your past, your fears, or your comfort zones. Burn the old self with the ferocity of someone who understands that the world does not reward the timid, the complacent, or the predictable. The fire of transformation must consume everything that holds you back, leaving only the raw, unyielding, unstoppable version of yourself, ready to dominate, ready to achieve, ready to shock everyone, including yourself. Dominate your mind before anything else. If you want to become unrecognizable in 2026, the most important battlefield is the one inside your own head. Your mind is the architect of your destiny. It is the control room where every decision, every action, every habit is initiated. And yet, most people live their entire lives with a mind that is undisciplined, weak, and easily swayed by fear, doubt, and distraction. They allow negative thoughts to run unchecked. They let self-sabotage dictate their choices, and they hand over control of their potential to circumstance, environment, or the opinions of others. If you want to be unrecognizable, if you want to shatter your old identity and rise to a new level of greatness, you must first take absolute control of the one thing you have in every moment, your mind. Dominate your mind and you dominate your life. The thoughts you entertain determine the reality you create. If you wake up every day allowing anxiety, doubt, and fear to set the tone, then your actions will follow and your results will reflect the weakness of your internal dialogue. You must understand that transformation is not just about doing more or working harder. It is about thinking differently, thinking strategically, thinking like someone who refuses to be ordinary. The mental battlefield is not about wishful thinking. It is about ruthless command over every thought, every emotion, and every impulse that arises within you. You must become the general in your mind, issuing orders and enforcing them without hesitation. Control begins with awareness. Most people do not dominate their minds because they have never even observed what runs through it. They live reactively, letting external events dictate their feelings, their focus, and their energy. The first step to domination is watching yourself. Listen to your inner voice. Observe the patterns that lead to procrastination, fear, or hesitation. Identify the thoughts that creep in when challenges appear, the doubts that whisper, "I can't," and the excuses that convince you that comfort is acceptable. Awareness alone is not enough, but it is the foundation. You cannot conquer what you do not understand, and you cannot change what you do not notice. Once you are aware, you must act. Dominating your mind requires active intervention. Negative thoughts must be intercepted before they take control. Every time you notice self-doubt creeping in, you must challenge it immediately. Say to yourself, "I will not allow fear to decide my future." Replace limiting beliefs with aggressive, empowering statements. Train your mind to respond to challenges, not with hesitation, but with strategy, not with fear, but with determination, not with self-pity, but with unyielding action. Mental domination is a daily practice, a discipline, a relentless commitment to refuse passivity and embrace control over every neural pathway that shapes your perception and choices. The mind thrives on repetition. If you repeat thoughts of fear, anxiety, or failure, your brain will treat them as commands and produce corresponding results. Conversely, if you repeat thoughts of courage, focus, and determination, your brain begins to build pathways that automatically steer you towards strength and success. This is why dominating your mind is not a one-time effort, it is a lifestyle. You must wake up each morning and feed your mind with clarity, purpose, and resolve. The first minutes of your day set the tone for everything that follows. The questions you ask yourself, the affirmations you make, the mental imagery you create. All of these are the fuel that either empowers you or destroys you before your day even begins. Dominating your mind also means mastering your emotions. Emotions are powerful, but if uncontrolled, they can become chains that hold you back. Anger, frustration, fear, and even excessive excitement can cloud judgment and lead to decisions that serve the old version of yourself. Mental dominance is not about suppression of emotions. It is about command over them. Feel them, acknowledge them, but do not allow them to dictate your actions. Train yourself to respond with discipline, with strategy, with deliberate focus, and your mind will become a weapon instead of a battlefield. Another critical aspect of mental domination is resilience. The mind will be tested continuously through setbacks, criticism, unexpected events, and in turn, our resistance. Most people fold under pressure because they have never learned to command their mental state in adversity. You must develop the ability to remain unshakable, to maintain focus, and to act decisively even when chaos surrounds you. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to strengthen your control. Every failure becomes a lesson in mental toughness. Dominate your mind, and nothing external can dominate your life. Discipline is the bridge between thought and action. You can think positively, visualize success, and repeat affirmations. But without disciplined execution, your mind's power remains dormant. Dominate your mind by setting non-negotiable routines, by holding yourself accountable, and by creating habits that enforce the control you desire. The actions you take in alignment with your mental commands are the proof of your mastery. Success is not born from inspiration alone. It is born from the relentless application of disciplined thought, transformed into consistent action. Mental domination also requires selective focus. In a world full of distractions, opinions, and noise, your mind is constantly assaulted by information that has no bearing on your vision. You must train your mind to filter, prioritize, and concentrate on what truly matters. This means saying no to trivial engagements, toxic influences, and energy-draining interactions. It means creating a mental environment where only clarity, strategy, and relentless forward momentum are allowed to thrive. A dominated mind is sharp, focused, and immune to the unnecessary chaos that distracts ordinary people. Finally, understand that dominating your mind is not a finite goal. It is an ongoing process. Every day presents new challenges, new doubts, and new opportunities to either reinforce your control or surrender it. Mental mastery is continuous, relentless, and non-negotiable. The person you were yesterday may have let the mind wander, succumb to distraction, or give in to fear, but the person who dominates their mind refuses to be held hostage by old patterns. This is the foundation of becoming unrecognizable in 2026. The person who commands their mind controls their destiny, and the person who controls their destiny becomes someone the world does not see coming. Someone powerful, unstoppable, and completely transformed. The reality is simple. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. If you allow it to run wild, uncontrolled, and reactive, you will remain the same, trapped by the limitations of your past. If you dominate it, harness it, and train it with relentless discipline, you will become unrecognizable, not just to the world, but to yourself. Every thought you command, every belief you reinforce, every moment of focus you cultivate is a step closer to the unstoppable version of yourself waiting to emerge in 2026. This is the battlefield of transformation. Win it, and everything else will follow. Consistency over comfort. If you want to become unrecognizable in 2026, you must understand that transformation is not born from fleeting motivation or temporary bursts of effort. It is forged in the fire of relentless daily consistency. Most people fail not because they lack talent, opportunity, or knowledge, but because they choose comfort over discipline. They chase the easy path, the pleasant option, the path that feels good in the moment but produces nothing meaningful in the long term. To become unrecognizable, you must reject comfort in every form, and you must commit to showing up, grinding, and doing the work every single day, even when it feels impossible, inconvenient, or exhausting. Comfort is a trap. It seduces you with temporary relief, but it slowly strangles your potential. Consistency is the antidote to comfort. It is the we upon that separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who settle for mediocrity. Consistency begins with clarity. You must be crystal clear about what you want to achieve and why it matters. Without clarity, consistency becomes meaningless. You will act without direction, expend energy without purpose, and drift back into the embrace of comfort. Your goals must be so vivid, so powerful that they pull you forward even when every fiber of your being wants to quit. The vision of the unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 must be so compelling that showing up every day becomes non-negotiable. Consistency is not about doing random acts of effort. It is about showing up with purpose, intention, and precision in alignment with your vision. One of the biggest challenges of consistency is monotony. Most people give up because progress does not come quickly enough or because the grind feels repetitive. The reality is that transformation is a marathon, not a sprint. Your discipline will be tested by boredom, by fatigue, and by the temptation to indulge in comfort. You must develop a mindset that celebrates the grind itself, that finds meaning in the repetition, that understands that each small, consistent action compounds into monumental results. Every day you show up, every day you push past your desire for ease, every day you do what others are unwilling to do, you are building momentum that will make your future self unrecognizable. Consistency over comfort also demands sacrifice. Comfort is seductive because it often comes at the cost of your long-term growth. You may want to stay in bed a little longer, scroll through social media, skip a workout, delay your work, or avoid the difficult conversations that will propel your life forward. Every choice like this is a compromise with mediocrity. To dominate 2026, you must become a person who sacrifices short-term comfort for long-term transformation. You must embrace discipline, not occasionally, but as a lifestyle. Your actions, your routines, your decisions must consistently favor growth over ease, pain over passivity, and progress over pleasure. Accountability is another critical element of consistency. It is easy to promise yourself that you will stay consistent when no one is watching. But the true test comes when you are tempted to quit, to take the easy route, to retreat into comfort. You must create systems, habits, and checks that ensure you do not stray from your path. This could be through accountability partners, journals, strict schedules, or public commitments. The point is that consistency thrives in environments where excuses are removed and action is enforced. You cannot allow fleeting motivation to dictate your results. You must design a life where showing up is inevitable, where the structure itself supports relentless forward motion. Another obstacle to consistency is emotional fluctuation. Most people let how they feel dictate their actions. They show up when inspired, motivated, or energized, but disappear when fatigue, doubt, or fear strikes. This is a fatal weakness. You must train yourself to act regardless of feelings. Feelings are fickle, discipline is reliable. The unrecognizable version of yourself is built on action that does not wait for mood, comfort, or approval. Every time you act while tired, frustrated, or doubtful, you are proving to yourself that consistency is stronger than comfort, that your willpower exceeds your circumstances, and that nothing external can dictate your trajectory. Consistency is also about embracing delayed gratification. Comfort is immediate. Transformation is delayed. The old you may have chosen instant pleasure, momentary relief, or temporary ease, but the new you understands that the rewards of 2026 are built today through persistent daily effort. Every action you take that is consistent with your vision, no matter how small it seems, is a deposit into the bank of your future self. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are compounding success, inching closer to a version of yourself that the world will not recognize. The environment around you can either support or sabotage your consistency. Comfort often masquerades as social influence. Friends, family, colleagues, or peers may encourage shortcuts, indulgence, or complacency because it feels easier for them, and they cannot comprehend your level of commitment. To remain consistent, you must curate your environment, removing distractions and influences that reinforce comfort. Surround yourself with people, spaces, and routines that amplify discipline, focus, and forward momentum. Consistency is easier when your surroundings are aligned with your ambition. Comfort is inevitable when they are aligned with mediocrity. It is also important to understand that consistency builds confidence. Every day you show up and do the work, you reinforce the truth that you are capable, resilient, and relentless. Doubt diminishes, fear fades, and the power of your mind grows stronger. The unrecognizable version of yourself is not only a result of what you do, but also of the belief that you can do it. Consistency proves to yourself that you are unbreakable, that you can endure, and that your commitment is unwavering. With each day of persistent effort, you are constructing a new identity, one that is disciplined, powerful, and unstoppable. Finally, consistency is not a temporary phase, it is a lifestyle. Showing up for a week, a month, or even a year is commendable, but transformation demands decades of relentless action. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 is someone who has embedded consistency into every aspect of life, mind, body, and spirit. This person does not wait for motivation, inspiration, or ideal conditions. This person acts relentlessly, predictably, and powerfully, regardless of circumstances. The result is a life that shocks the world, a presence that commands respect, and a personal transformation so profound that no one, including yourself, can ever mistake it for your old identity. Remember, comfort is easy. Consistency is powerful. Comfort is temporary. Consistency creates permanent change. Comfort keeps you small. Consistency makes you unrecognizable. If you want to dominate 2026, you must choose every single day to act in alignment with your vision, even when it hurts, even when it is inconvenient, even when it feels impossible. Consistency over comfort is not optional. It is the foundation of unrecognizable transformation. Your comfort zone is a cage. Consistency is the key that sets you free. Outwork everyone in silence. To become unrecognizable in 2026, you must understand a principle that most people never truly grasp. Success is not measured by words, promises, or appearances. It is measured by results, by relentless action, and by the quiet grind that nobody sees. Most people are obsessed with recognition, validation, and approval. They want applause before they have done the work. They post updates about intentions, boast about plans, and seek praise for ideas rather than results. This is the exact opposite of the mindset you must adopt if you want to transform into someone unrecognizable. Real success is earned in the shadows. Real progress is made when no one is watching, when the world is distracted, and when you are locked in, moving quietly, relentlessly, and with laser-like focus toward your vision. The world will notice only when the results are undeniable, and by that time, the transformation will shock everyone, including yourself. Silence is no a void, it is a tool. When you work in silence, you eliminate distractions, reduce external pressure, and concentrate all your energy on the task at hand. Talking about what you're going to do, posting about your plans, or seeking validation before action is equivalent to giving away your energy. Every time you announce your intention, you release some of the drive, the hunger, and the fire that should be fueling your execution. The unrecognizable version of yourself understands this instinctively. They do not boast, they do not seek attention, and they do not measure success by likes, comments, or applause. They measure it by action, by results, and by the satisfaction that comes from knowing they are building something extraordinary while everyone else is distracted. Outworking everyone in silence requires extraordinary discipline. Discipline to arrive before others, to stay after others leave, to push past fatigue, doubt, and fear, and to keep moving forward when the world is resting. Most people think they are working hard because they show up occasionally, put in effort when convenient, and celebrate small wins publicly. That is not enough. To be unrecognizable, your work ethic must be relentless. You must consistently outwork those around you, not to compete with them directly, but because you have committed to being greater than your former self. Your focus must be absolute, your energy deliberate, and your output undeniable. Every hour, every minute, every action becomes a declaration that mediocrity is no longer an option in your life. The power of silent work also lies in strategy. Noise attracts enemies, distractions, and unnecessary challenges. The more you broadcast your intentions, the more likely it is that people will doubt you, sabotage you, or try to replicate you. Silence protects your growth. It allows you to focus without interference, to innova without scrutiny, and to develop skills, strength, and resilience before anyone has a chance to challenge you. By the time the world sees the results of your work, they will be forced to recognize not just what you have accomplished, but the discipline, sacrifice, and unseen effort that created it. You are not working for applause. You are working to become a force that cannot be ignored. Outworking everyone in silence also means embracing monotony and repetition. The grind is rarely glamorous. It is early mornings, late nights, and countless hours of work that feels thankless, invisible, and exhausting. Most people quit when the excitement fades, when recognition is absent, or when the process becomes boring. The unrecognizable version of yourself thrives in this environment. You understand that greatness is forged in the mundane, that every repeated effort compounds into results, and that the quiet labor today becomes the explosive success tomorrow. While others are distracted by external validation, you are busy building, learning, and pushing forward with unstoppable momentum. Sacrifice is inevitable in this pursuit. Outworking everyone in silence means saying no to instant gratification, social indulgence, and comfort. It means making choices every day that align with long-term vision rather than short-term pleasure. You will miss parties, skip vacations, forego convenience, and endure fatigue, all while others are indulging in temporary satisfaction. This is the price of transformation. Every sacrifice compounds your growth and brings you closer to the unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026. Comfort, approval, and leisure are temporary. Results, mastery, and unrelenting progress are permanent. Mental toughness is another critical aspect of outworking in silence. There will be days when you question the purpose of your effort, when exhaustion threatens to break your discipline, and when the lack of recognition tempts you to quit. On these days, mental toughness becomes your greatest asset. You must develop the ability to push forward regardless of emotional state, regardless of external acknowledgement, and regardless of temporary setbacks. Outworking everyone is not about fleeting bursts of energy. It is about relentless perseverance when no one is watching, when the world is quiet, and when the temptation to stop is at its peak. This is the crucible in which unrecognizable transformation is forged. Another dimension of working in silence is focus. The unrecognizable version of yourself understands that attention is a finite resource and that distraction is the enemy of progress. Every task, every hour, every action is performed with undivided focus and deliberate intention. You do not scatter your energy on meaningless debates, social approval, or idle conversation. Your mind is locked, your actions are deliberate, and your energy is directed toward producing results that cannot be ignored. Focus, discipline, and silent effort form a triad that separates those who achieve greatness from those who only dream about it. Outworking everyone in silence also creates an air of unpredictability and power. When you keep your actions hidden, your results become explosive. People cannot anticipate what you are building, what you are capable of, or how far your transformation has progressed. When the moment comes to reveal your achievements, the impact is magnified because no one expected it. The unrecognizable version of yourself does not need to explain, justify, or announce. You let your results do all the talking, and when they speak, the world listens. Finally, understand that outworking everyone in silence is not temporary. It is a lifestyle. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 will not be someone who only works when convenient or visible. They are someone who has made relentless effort an identity, who thrives in the quiet grind, and who consistently outperforms expectations without needing acknowledgement. Silence is your strategy. Work is your weapon. And consistency is your armor. Together, these principles create unstoppable transformation that shocks everyone, even those closest to you. Outwork everyone in silence, and you will discover a truth that most never realize. The journey is as powerful as the destination. Every unseen hour, every quiet effort, every sacrifice compounds into strength, resilience, and unshakable confidence. The world may not notice your effort, but your results will be undeniable. Your transformation will be so complete, so unexpected, and so extraordinary that people will no longer recognize the person you once were. And in that moment, you will understand that the greatest victories are won quietly with relentless action, discipline, and the refusal to settle for anything less than becoming unrecognizable in 2026. That embrace radical discipline. If you want to become unrecognizable in 2026, you must understand that talent, luck, and motivation are secondary. What separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the predictable from the unrecognizable, is discipline. The kind of discipline that does not negotiate, does not take breaks, and does not wait for inspiration. Most people think they are disciplined when they follow a routine occasionally, or when they resist temptation for a day or a week. That is not discipline. Discipline is a lifestyle, a mindset, a relentless commitment to do what must be done, regardless of how you feel, what circumstances appear, or how inconvenient it becomes. Radical discipline is the backbone of transformation, the weapon that burns the old self and constructs a version of you that shocks the world. Radical discipline begins with accountability to yourself. It is easy to blame external circumstances, to point fingers at the world, or to claim that you lacked opportunity or support. The unrecognizable version of yourself understands that nothing external can control the results you produce unless you allow it. Discipline means holding yourself to standards that are higher than what anyone else expects, higher than what is comfortable, and higher than what is convenient. It is the daily decision to choose long-term growth over short-term pleasure, to act when others rest, and to persist when others quit. Radical discipline is not occasional. It is non-negotiable. It does not wait for the perfect time, perfect energy, or perfect mood. It acts consistently, relentlessly, and with unflinching commitment. To embrace radical discipline, you must master your habits. The person who becomes unrecognizable does not leave success to chance or rely on sporadic bursts of effort. They build systems, rituals, and habits that enforce discipline automatically. Every morning, every evening, every hour is designed to reinforce the behaviors that lead to transformation. Discipline is not something you turn on when convenient. It is embedded into the architecture of your life. Your habits become the engine that drives your growth. And your daily choices, repeated over time, compound into monumental results. Radical discipline is the consistent reinforcement of these habits, even when motivation fades, even when fatigue sets in, and even when the world offers countless distractions to pull you off course. Radical discipline also demands self-awareness and honesty. You must confront the areas in your life where weakness persists. You must recognize the excuses, the indulgences, the distractions, and the patterns of procrastination that have held you back. Discipline begins with the refusal to toll. Erase mediocrity in yourself. It requires you to identify where you are soft, where you have compromised, and where you've allowed comfort to replace growth. Once you see these truths, radical discipline compels you to act, to eliminate them, and to replace them with routines and behaviors that push you closer to the unrecognizable version of yourself. Consistency and focus are inseparable from radical discipline. Talent, intelligence, and potential mean nothing without relentless execution. Radical discipline demands that you show up fully every day, even when inspiration is absent and external validation is non-existent. The grind becomes sacred, the process inviolable, and the commitment unbreakable. You develop the ability to perform at a high level, even when no one is watching, even when every cell in your body is screaming for ease, and even when the outcomes are not immediate. Radical discipline teaches patience, perseverance, and the understanding that greatness is earned one deliberate, disciplined action at a time. Sacrifice is inherent in radical discipline. There will be choices every day between comfort and growth, between indulgence and progress, between short-term pleasure and long-term transformation. The person who becomes unrecognizable consistently chooses the path of discipline. They forego temporary distractions, prioritize their vision over fleeting satisfaction, and act with a long-term perspective that few are willing to adopt. Every sacrifice compounds, every choice reinforces identity, and every moment spent practicing discipline strengthens the unshakable version of themselves that emerges in 2026. Comfort is fleeting, discipline is permanent. Radical discipline also requires mental toughness. The world will challenge you, tempt you, and attempt to pull you back into the habits of your old self. Fear, doubt, laziness, and distraction are constant adversaries. Discipline is the force that refuses to bend under pressure, that keeps you aligned with your purpose, and that maintains focus when external conditions are chaotic. Mental toughness is strengthened by repeated acts of discipline, by waking up early, completing tasks despite fatigue, staying focused when others slack, and enduring discomfort without complaint. The unrecognizable version of yourself is forged in this relentless practice of control and perseverance. Another key aspect of radical discipline is the ability to delay gratification. Radical discipline is not about immediate reward. It is about building a life so powerful, so transformed, that instant pleasure becomes irrelevant. The unrecognizable person does not seek applause for small wins or temporary validation. They are willing to endure, to struggle, and to sacrifice for the exponential payoff that comes from consistent, disciplined action. Every choice that prioritizes growth over comfort, every act of self-control, and every moment of resistance against temptation compounds into long-term results that make transformation inevitable. Environment plays a crucial role in sustaining radical discipline. Surroundings, influences, and the people you engage with can either reinforce your commitment or sabotage it. To fully embrace discipline, you must curate your environment to support your growth. Remove distractions, minimize negative influences, and immerse yourself in spaces and communities that amplify focus, work ethic, and excellence. Radical discipline is easier to maintain when the external environment aligns with your internal standards, and it becomes a lifestyle when your surroundings consistently reflect and reinforce your commitment to transformation. Radical discipline is also about accountability to a higher standard. It is not enough to compare yourself to others. The unrecognizable version of yourself is measured against the person you were yesterday. Every day is an opportunity to outdo your previous self, to push harder, to endure longer, and to execute with more precision. Radical discipline ensures that your standards rise continually, that complacency has no home, and that your growth is exponential rather than stagnant. The journey is not about competing with the world. It is about dominating your own potential with relentless precision. Finally, radical discipline leads to freedom, paradoxically through constraint. By committing to control over your actions, your habits, and your decisions, you liberate yourself from the chains of inconsistency, distraction, and mediocrity. Discipline creates predictability in effort and inevitability in results. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 will not be a product of luck or chance. They will be the result of thousands of deliberate, disciplined actions that compound over time. Radical discipline transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement, and ordinary individuals into unrecognizable forces of relentless power. Embrace radical discipline, and you embrace transformation. It is not optional. It is not temporary, and it is not negotiable. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement, between vision and reality. The person who masters radical discipline does not rely on fleeting motivation, external validation, or temporary inspiration. They operate with purpose, precision, and unrelenting commitment every single day, and the results are undeniable. Radical discipline is the fire that burns the old self and forges a version of you so powerful, so focused, and so unstoppable that 2026 will reveal a person the world and even you cannot recognize, reinvent relationships and environment. To become unrecognizable in 2026, you must understand that your surroundings, the people you engage with, and the relationships you maintain have a direct impact on who you are, what you believe is possible, and how far you can rise. Transformation is not only about inner work, relentless action, or discipline. It is also about carefully curating the world around you so that it supports your growth rather than limiting it. Most people fail to reach their full potential because they allow toxic relationships, unsupportive networks, and negative environments to dictate their mindset, energy, and direction. You must become intentional about who you allow into your life, what influences you absorb, and the environment you choose to inhabit. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 will not just be someone who has changed internally, but someone who has restructured their entire ecosystem to fuel excellence. Relationships shape your identity more than you realize. Every person you interact with daily leaves an imprint on your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. If your circle tolerates mediocrity, excuses, or negativity, you will unconsciously adopt those patterns. To become unrecognizable, you must evaluate each relationship with ruthless honesty. Who is lifting you up versus who is holding you back? Who challenges you, pushes you, and inspires excellence versus who distracts you, drains your energy, or validates complacency? Reinventing your relationships is not about cutting people off cruelly. It is about prioritizing your growth over comfort, surrounding yourself with those who push you to the next level, and creating a network that reflects the person you are becoming rather than the person you were. Environment is equally critical. Your physical space, your routines, and your daily exposure to ideas, media, and activities have a profound influence on your mindset. If you are constantly surrounded by chaos, negativity, or distracted, your ability to focus, create, and execute diminishes. To become unrecognizable, you must craft an environment that supports your ambition. This could mean organizing your home or workspace for productivity, eliminating distractions that steal your energy, or immersing yourself in communities where excellence is normalized and celebrated. Radical transformation requires a mental and physical environment that reinforces focus, discipline, and the relentless pursuit of your vision. Reinventing relationships and environment also requires breaking free from old patterns. Many people cling to relationships and settings simply out of habit, nostalgia, or fear of confrontation. This is dangerous because comfort and familiarity often act as invisible chains that prevent growth. To become unrecognizable, you must have the courage to step away from what no longer serves you, even if it feels uncomfortable or emotionally taxing. This could mean distancing yourself from friends who constantly complain, from colleagues who resist progress, or from family dynamics that enforce limitation. The unrecognizable version of yourself understands that growth demands sacrifice, and sometimes the greatest sacrifices are the people and environments that no longer align with your vision. The process of reinvention also involves intentionality in the relationships you cultivate. Seek out mentors, peers, and collaborators who embody the qualities, discipline, and success you aspire to achieve. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to rise, hold you accountable, and inspire new levels of action. Relationships should act as catalysts for your growth, not anchors that keep you tethered to your past. The energy you absorb from others is contagious. Choose it wisely. A single focused, motivated, and disciplined individual in your network can elevate your performance exponentially. Wow. A single negative influence can undo months of progress. Environment and relationships also dictate your mindset. Toxicity, envy, and doubt are contagious, just as positivity, ambition, and relentless action are. To become unrecognizable, you must immerse yourself in an ecosystem that consistently reminds you of your potential and enforces high standards. This means not only distancing yourself from negativity, but actively seeking inspiration, knowledge, and accountability from your surroundings. Podcasts, books, seminars, and communities that align with your vision are all part of the environment that feeds transformation. Reinventing your environment is not passive. It is a deliberate act of engineering your life to optimize focus, growth, and success. Boundaries are essential in this process. Reinventing relationships does not mean isolating yourself or rejecting everyone. It means establishing clear lines that protect your energy, time, and focus. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 will have mastered the ability to say no to distractions, excuses, and drains on energy, and yes to opportunities, people, and interactions that accelerate progress. Boundaries create space for consistency, discipline, and relentless action, allowing you to operate on a higher level without being pulled back into the habits and limitations of your past. Another critical aspect of reinvention is self-awareness. To restructure your relationships and environment effectively, you must understand your own values, goals, and non-negotiables. What do you want to achieve? What standards are you unwilling to compromise? What version of yourself do you aspire to be? By clarifying these internal truths, you can more easily identify which people, habits, and environments support your vision and which ones sabotage it. Reinventing relationships and environment is about alignment. Every seed, connection, interaction, and setting must be in service of the person you are becoming. Reinvention is also a continuous process. As you grow, your relationships and environments must evolve with you. The people who supported you at one stage may not be aligned with the next level of your journey. The spaces that once fueled your progress may eventually become stagnant. To remain unrecognizable, you must constantly assess, adapt, and refine your surroundings to ensure that every element of your life is pushing you forward. Growth is dynamic, and your environment and relationships must be equally fluid to maintain alignment with your highest vision. Finally, reinventing relationships and environment multiplies the impact of all your other efforts. Radical discipline, consistent work, mental mastery. All of these are amplified when your surroundings are strategically designed to support your transformation. The person you were yesterday may have been constrained by toxicity, distraction, or negative influence. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 will be unstoppable because every relationship, every interaction, and every space you occupy will be intentionally curated to fuel excellence, reinforce ambition, and magnify results. Transformation is not just internal, it is an ecosystem. And when your ecosystem is optimized, you accelerate your growth exponentially. Reinvent relationships and environment, and you will create a life where excellence is inevitable. You will no longer be defined by the limitations of your past or the people who once held you back. Instead, you will thrive in an ecosystem that reflects your vision, amplifies your effort, and challenges you to be relentless by intentionally choosing who you surround yourself with, the environments you occupy, and the energy you allow into your life. You are taking control of one of the most powerful levers of transformation. The person who masters this principle will not only be unrecognizable in 2026, they will be unstoppable, untouchable, and a force that the world could never have predicted. Elevate your standards relentlessly. To become unrecognizable in 2026, you must understand that transformation is not about occasional effort, luck, or temporary bursts of motivation. It is about creating a new identity rooted in higher standards, uncompromising expectations, and unyielding commitment to excellence. Most people fail not because they lack ability, opportunity, or vision, but because they allow their standards to remain low, flexible, and negotiable. They accept mediocrity, tolerate excuses, and settle for the familiar. To become unrecognizable, you must raise your standards in every area of your life, your work ethic, your relationships, your mindset, your habits, and your self-expectations. And refuse to compromise on them no matter the cost. Raising your standards begins with self-awareness. You must take a brutally honest inventory of your life. Where have you allowed yourself to settle? In what areas have you tolerated less than your potential? Which behaviors, habits, and relationships no longer serve your highest vision? Without this clarity, you cannot identify the gaps between where you are and the unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026. Standards are invisible until you define them, and transformation begins the moment you refuse to accept anything that falls short of your new expectations. Elevating your standards requires discipline. It is easy to maintain old habits because they are comfortable, familiar, and predictable. Radical growth demands that you do the uncomfortable, the difficult, and the extraordinary, even when no one is watching. Discipline is the bridge that turns high standards from abstract ideals into tangible results. Without disciplined action, standards remain meaningless. Every hour you spend working harder than yesterday, every sacrifice you make, and every deliberate decision you take to pursue excellence compounds into the unrecognizable transformation you are building. Discipline ensures that your elevated standards are enforced consistently, not occasionally. Your environment plays a critical role in supporting higher standards. Most people's surroundings are designed to reinforce complacency and mediocrity. To elevate your standards, you must surround yourself with people, spaces, and experiences that demand more from you, that challenge you to rise, and that reflect the level of excellence you aspire to achieve. When your environment is aligned with your vision, your elevated standards become easier to maintain. Conversely, if your surroundings tolerate mediocrity or distract from your goals, your efforts will be diluted. Elevating standards is not just an internal shift, it is a strategic restructuring of your life so that every influence around you encourages growth, focus, and excellence. A critical aspect of raising your standards is rejecting excuses. People with low standards justify failure, rationalize delay, and blame external circumstances. To become unrecognizable, you must refuse to allow excuses to dictate your results. Accountability becomes non-negotiable. Every time you catch yourself rationalizing, procrastinating, or lowering your expectations, you must confront it, correct it, and recommit to your higher standard. The unrecognizable version of yourself is someone who sees excuses not as valid explanations, but as opportunities to reinforce discipline, focus, and determination. Excuses have no home in a life built on elevated standards. Elevating standards also demands patience and persistence. High standards often create tension because your old environment, relationships, and habits may resist change. You may encounter frustration, resistance, and criticism from others who are uncomfortable with your growth. This is normal. Transformation is rarely accepted immediately. It is forged through persistence in the face of discomfort. The person who becomes unrecognizable continues to operate at a higher level. Even when progress feels slow, recognition is absent, or challenges seem overwhelming. Every consistent, deliberate action that aligns with your elevated standards compounds into unstoppable momentum over time. Your mindset is at the core of elevated standards. To achieve transformation, you must refuse to accept limits that have been imposed by fear, self-doubt, or past experiences. You must redefine what is possible for yourself and operate with the conviction that anything short of excellence is unacceptable. This mindset drives every decision, every action, and every habit. When your standards are elevated, you will no longer tolerate mediocrity in yourself or in your circumstances. You will become relentless in pursuit of what others deem impossible because your internal benchmark for excellence has shifted. Elevating standards is also about vision. Standards define the quality of your work, the caliber of your relationships, and the scope of your ambitions. If you want to be unrecognizable in 2026, you must envision a version of yourself that is far beyond your current reality. Then you must reverse engineer every decision, action, and relationship to meet that standard. This means asking hard questions. Am I performing at the level that matches my future vision? Are my habits, choices, and daily actions aligned with the person I want to become? Every yes is a reinforcement of your elevated standards. Every no is an opportunity to adjust, improve, and recommit. Another element of elevating standards is courage. Raising E. Expectations in a world that celebrates mediocrity can be isolating. People may resist your transformation, question your decisions, or ridicule your ambitions. To maintain elevated standards, you must develop courage, the courage to stand firm in your commitment, to prioritize growth over comfort, and to persevere when others doubt or resist you. Courage and standards are inseparable. Without courage, even the highest standards can crumble under pressure, temptation, or social influence. Accountability multiplies the power of elevated standards. Hold yourself to your new expectations rigorously. Track your habits, monitor your progress, and measure results against the benchmarks you have set. Avoid the temptation to relax standards when progress is uncomfortable or results are delayed. Discipline, focus, and accountability work together to transform standards from ideals into reality. The unrecognizable version of yourself in 2026 is built on consistent enforcement of these expectations until excellence becomes automatic, habitual, and unavoidable. Finally, elevating your standards transforms identity. Standards are not just about behavior. They shape how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. When you operate consistently at a higher level, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as ordinary, limited, or constrained by past failures. You see yourself as someone relentless, capable, and unrecognizable. Elevated standards become the defining factor of your life, the foundation upon which every decision, action, and relationship is built. They ensure that 2026 reveals not just a better version of yourself, but a version that is completely transformed, unstoppable, and extraordinary. Raise your standards relentlessly, and you raise your life. You stop settling, you stop negotiating, and you stop allowing mediocrity to dictate your destiny. Every actio, end. Every decision, every relationship, and every habit is filtered through the lens of excellence. Radical discipline, consistent work, mental mastery, and strategic relationships are amplified when your standards are uncompromising. The person who masters this principle will not simply improve, they will become unrecognizable. 2026 will reveal a version of you that is powerful, unstoppable, and awe-inspiring because you refuse to settle, you refuse to compromise, and you refuse to accept anything less than your highest standard. Now is the moment to decide who you are going to be in 2026. The person you are today is not the person you are destined to become. You have the power to destroy old habits, old excuses, old limitations, and rise into someone so extraordinary that even your past self wouldn't recognize you. Transformation doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't negotiate with fear, and it doesn't care about comfort. It rewards those who commit, those who endure, and those who refuse to settle for mediocrity. You have a choice: continue being predictable, comfortable, and ordinary, or embrace the grind, embrace discomfort, and become unrecognizable in every way that matters. Everything you've learned today, clarity of vision, radical self-discipline, relentless consistency, outworking everyone in silence, curating your environment, elevating your standards, these are not suggestions. They are demands you must place on yourself if you are serious about change. Every action you take, every sacrifice you make, every uncomfortable step you endure compounds into a version of yourself that is unstoppable. You cannot take shortcuts. You cannot wait for motivation to show up. You must show up for yourself every single day and refuse to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Imagine yourself at the end of 2026. Picture the person you have become. Notice how different, how powerful, how unstoppable you are. That version of you is waiting, but they are waiting for one thing: your commitment today. Every hour you waste, every distraction you indulge, every comfort you chase is a barrier between who you are and who you are meant to become. The grind is not temporary. The pain, the effort, the discipline, these are permanent investments into a life that will shock everyone who ever doubted you. Every moment you choose action over comfort, persistence over quitting, and excellence over mediocrity is a brick in the foundation of your unrecognizable self. Do not wait for recognition. Do not wait for applause. The world will notice only when you have arrived, when results are undeniable, and when your transformation can no longer be ignored. Until then, work in silence, act in secrecy, and hold yourself accountable with absolute ruthlessness. Your ambition, your vision, and your relentless pursuit of excellence will become louder than any words, louder than any validation, and louder than any distraction trying to pull you back into mediocrity. So today, make the promise to yourself that 2026 will be the year they cannot recognize you, not just in appearance, not just in accomplishments, but in power, mindset, and presence. Refuse to be held back by old habits, toxic relationships, or fleeting comfort. Commit to radical discipline, to consistency, to higher standards, and to the silent.